Anyone else like watching Tucker Carlson? Have you heard of Charlie Rose? Every day, these reporters seemed to be at the top of their game as they told people the news and kept them entertained. But everything changed one day. People watched in shock as they were fired without warning and wondered what went wrong. What went wrong behind the scenes that made them fail? We now know for sure why these 15 reporters were fired. Want to know the truth? Watch out for now. We'll start with Kimberly Guilfoyle, who quit Fox News in July 2018 after a lot of trouble. People know Guilfoyle as the co-host of The Five. She quit after the network started looking into claims of sexual misbehavior. Some of the claims were that she had shown inappropriate pictures of male genitalia to coworkers, which her lawyer strongly rejected. Even though the charges were very serious, Guilfoyle didn't stay out of the news for long. Soon after she left, she changed careers and worked on former President Donald Trump's 2020 re-election campaign with her boyfriend, Donald Trump Jr. People paid a lot of attention to Guilfoyle at campaign events, where she gave fiery talks and always stood by the Trump family. Even though the campaign didn't end the way they wanted it to, Guilfoyle stayed a well-known conservative voice. Even though Guilfoyle's departure from Fox was rough, her high-profile relationship and political ties kept her in the public eye. This shows that a scandal can be just another part of a media personality's life. Brian Williams is up next. He used to be a familiar face in American living rooms, and people trusted him to give the news. But a single story would destroy his reputation and career in ways that no one could have imagined. It all started with what he said about something that happened in 2003 during the Iraq War. Williams said he was in a Chinook chopper that was attacked by enemy forces. One thing was wrong with the story of bravery and danger that kept me reading. It wasn't true. While Williams was telling his story, military people who were there that day started to doubt it. As the story grew, the respected reporter became the center of attention. Williams finally accepted that he was wrong when he was pushed. He said that he was in the helicopter that came after the one that was struck. He said he was sorry for getting the facts wrong and said it was because of a bad memory, but it was too late. NBC News, where he had worked for a long time, quickly took action. Williams was put on leave without pay for 6 months. The reporter who used to be unbeatable was now in a fight for his job. Fox News said something shocking on July 1st, 2020. Henry had lost his job. Why? There were claims of sexual misbehavior that shocked the media world. The trouble started when the lawyer of a former employee came to the network with some troubling claims. Executives at Fox News said they took Henry off the show and started an investigation right away. The trouble for Henry didn't end there, though. Jennifer Eckhart, the worker who made the first report, later revealed a shocking truth. In a federal case, she said Henry had hit her. Her claims were very scary. Her claims were that he forced her to have physical relations with him, abused her at work, and even abused her in a hotel room in 2017. Eckhart's words showed a man who abused his position and power. She said she felt helpless, afraid that Henry would ruin her future if she told him what she thought. The lawsuit talked about a routine of abusive actions, such as sending violent messages and making threats. Henry's firing was a turning point for Fox News. People have said bad things about the network in recent years for how it handles sexual harassment claims. Right now, they had to deal with another high-profile case that could hurt their image even more. Next is Charlie Rose, who used to be a reporter. In American media, he was a giant, an important person whose work spanned many years. But in just a few days in November 2017, his whole world fell apart. There was a shocking report in the Washington Post that would change everything. 8 women had come forward to say that Rose had sex with them inappropriately. The claims were shocking and went back to the late 1990s and up to 2011. Women who had worked for Rose or wanted to work for him talked about a trend of bad behavior. They talked about Rose making unwanted sexual approaches, making obscene phone calls, and even walking around naked while they were there. Some said he touched them inappropriately. At the time of the claimed events, the accusers were between the ages of 21 and 37. The answer from Rose's bosses was quick and clear. David Rhodes, president of CBS News, said that Rose would be fired right away. Rhodes stressed that making sure everyone was safe at work was the network's main goal, and Rose's alleged acts were seen as unacceptable. Rose was also fired from PBS, where she had been in charge of a talk show for a long time. Rose himself said sorry, saying he was very embarrassed by what he had done. He admitted that he had been indifferent at times, but he denied that some of the accusations were true. No matter what, the damage was done. Not long after, Rose's 45-year career in TV came to a sudden end, but the list goes on. Chris Cuomo is next. In December 2021, his whole world turned upside down. The CNN host, who was known for his sharp interviews and family ties, got caught in a storm that would cost him his job. The trouble started when new papers were found that showed Cuomo had something to do with his brother's political problem. At the time, Andrew Cuomo was the governor of New York and was being accused of sexual misbehavior by several people. It became clear that Chris had been more than just a helpful brother as the story grew. He was said to have used his media ties to find out about the people who were accusing his brother and the investigation that was going on at the time. CNN removed Cuomo at first on December 1st, but things quickly got worse. 3 days later, on December 4th, the network told him he was being fired right away. Cuomo was found to have broken journalistic ethics by giving his brother's staff advice on how to handle the growing issue, which led to the decision. The firing was a terrible blow to Cuomo. In an interview with the New York Times, he said it was a very upsetting event, but he wasn't going to give up. In a lawsuit against CNN, Cuomo asked for an unbelievable $125 million in damages. He said the network had cast him as a blameless victim, which was not fair and hurt his image. The next anchor story shows how quickly a job that has been going for a long time can fall apart. Matt Lauer was once the well-known host of NBC's Today Show. In late November 2017, his life turned upside down. The Me Too movement was growing stronger thanks to the shocking news about Harvey Weinstein. Lauer had no idea that he would soon be another well-known person to fall victim to this societal reckoning. Another worker filed an official complaint against Lauer, saying that he had behaved sexually inappropriately at work. This was the final blow. Without waiting, NBC started a probe right away, but that was only the beginning. More accusations from 2014 came to light as the story went on, drawing a disturbing picture of Lauer's behavior. One of the most important claims came from Brooke Nevels, who used to work at NBC. She told a scary story about something that happened at the Sochi Winter Olympics and said that Lauer had raped her in his hotel room. Nevels said she was too drunk to agree, but Lauer said they were both aware of what was going on and agreed to it. As the story grew, more women came forward, pointing to a pattern of harassment that NBC had been okay with for years. Next on our list is a person who is known for having strong views and a short fuse. Piers Morgan's exit from Good Morning Britain in March 2021 was just as dramatic as the character he played on TV. What caused it? Getting angry with co-host Alex Beresford over what Morgan said about Meghan Markle after her shocking interview with Oprah Winfrey. Morgan had always been open about how much he didn't like Markle, but his response to her interview upset a lot of people. On the air, he told her angrily that he didn't believe her stories about her problems with the royal family, including her mental health problems. The reaction came quickly and hard. The mental health organization Mind was very worried, and the broadcasting regulator Ofcom got over 41,000 complaints. The event put ITV in a tough spot, especially since they had just started the Britain Get Talking campaign for mental health. Morgan chose to leave Good Morning Britain after talking with the network about it, but that wasn't the end of his story. After less than 2 years, he started Piers Morgan Uncensored on Talk TV, which is owned by film mogul Rupert Murdoch. However, this new business had its own problems. Morgan said in February 2024 that he was shifting his attention to his digital outlet, mostly YouTube. There were reports that this move was caused by low viewership, which shows how the broadcast media environment is changing. The next anchor's job took a sudden and big drop after making one bad comment. In May 2023, Ken Rosato was at the center of a scandal. He had been a known face on a BC7 for 20 years. It all began with a hot mic incident that made him lose his job and hurt his image. Rosato said something rude about his co-anchor, Shirlene Alicott, during a break in filming when he thought he wasn't on TV. The control room heard what he said, but he didn't know it. The answer from management was quick and clear. Rosato was fired almost as soon as the news spread about what happened. At first it was said that Rosato had used a racial slur, but his lawyers quickly denied these charges. They insisted that Rosato fought for equality all his life and during his work. No matter what, the damage was done. Just hours after the event, ABC7 took Rosato's biography off their website, wiping out his 20-year history at the station. The next part of our look at fallen news anchors is about one of the most controversial people in the history of TV news. Bill O'Reilly used to be the undisputed king of primetime at Fox News, but in April 2017, his kingdom fell apart. You might ask why. A damning story in the New York Times that showed a pattern of sexual harassment claims that went back years. O'Reilly's fall didn't happen quickly. It was the end of years of accusations and deals that were kept hidden. According to the Times story, Fox News had given about $13 million to at least 5 women who had said that O'Reilly had sexually harassed them or behaved inappropriately. Most of the time, these villages had strict rules about keeping things secret, putting the victims out of the public eye. There were many serious accusations made against O'Reilly. Some women said he said sexy things and made unwanted sexual moves toward them. Some people said they worked in a hostile atmosphere where complaints were met with threats of violence. Even though these claims were very serious, O'Reilly had been able to keep his job for years, mostly because his show, The O'Reilly Factor, brought in a lot of viewers and money for Fox News. But what the Times said changed everything. As the public's anger grew and advertisers stopped paying for Fox News, the network had to move. After carefully looking into the claims, the network said O'Reilly would not be coming back. Our next story takes us back to 2010, when CNN host Rick Sanchez's career was ruined by a single interview. Sanchez was a guest on SiriusXM's Stand Up with Pete Dominic in October. What began as a normal interview quickly turned into a scandal when Sanchez said hurtful things about comedian Jon Stewart and the media business as a whole. Sanchez first called Stewart a racist, but that wasn't all he said. After that, he said that Stewart and other people who ran CNN and other networks were part of an elite group in the Northeast that looked down on people like him. Sanchez, who is Cuban, said that Stewart's show was biased against people who didn't agree with his white liberal elite view. But Sanchez's words about Jews were the ones that really went too far. He asked if Jews were still a group that was being mistreated, which meant that he thought they had too much power in the media. Sanchez said, "Everyone who runs CNN is a lot like Stewart, and so are a lot of the people who run all the other networks, as well as making it sound like Jewish people in this country are somehow a group that is being mistreated." Yes, the reaction happened right away. CNN said Sanchez was no longer working for the network just one day after the interview ran. Fox News shocked both viewers and people who work in the industry when it fired Tucker Carlson, one of its most famous and controversial hosts, in April 2023. The choice made waves in the media, and many people are still wondering what could have caused such a big change. Carlson had long been a source of debate because of the content and language he used that made people angry and upset. He often went beyond what was considered appropriate speech, often going into areas that many people thought were related to conspiracy theories. Over the years, he had been criticized more and more for promoting racist ideas like the Great Replacement theory and making racist comments. But Carlson's on-air character wasn't the only thing that worried people. During the Dominion voting systems lawsuit, private texts were made public. They showed a man who really believed in the controversial ideas he talked about on camera. This new information made it seem less likely that Carlson was just pretending to be someone else to get more viewers. Many people thought there might be a link between Carlson's firing and the Dominion case because it happened right after the lawsuit. Some people think that Carlson's harsh criticism of Fox News' bosses during this rough time may have been the last straw. A particularly disturbing text message from Carlson, in which he supported racist and anti-Semitic comments made just before the trial, could have been the turning point. Leaked video from both before and after Carlson's firing added fuel to the fire. In these clips, he was seen criticizing the Fox News streaming service and being upset about having to wear a sweater during an interview with Andrew Tate, who was accused of trafficking in sex. Carlson said that Fox News was trying to hurt his image by leaking these things, but the network strongly denied these claims. Even though Carlson was undeniably popular and one of Fox News' biggest stars, it looks like the company's leaders decided he was no longer an advantage but a liability. There were a lot of problems and worries about harm to the network during the Dominion trial, which probably played a big part in this choice. The story of Don Lemon comes next. Lemon was fired out of the blue on April 24, 2023. From the network he had worked for decades. Many people were shocked by the news, including Lemon, who said he found out about his firing from his lawyer instead of CNN management. Lemon wasn't fired out of the blue, though. It was the conclusion of a string of problems and scandals that had sent red flags through the network. Lemon had been banned for making rude comments about women just a few weeks before he was fired. In particular, he said that Nikki Haley, the former governor of South Carolina, was past her prime. CNN made Lemon go through sensitivity training at this time, but the problems didn't stop there. Not long before he was fired, Lemon was accused by several current and past coworkers of being rude to women at work. There were reports that he had inappropriately treated his female coworkers, which made things even worse at CNN. For its part, the network didn't agree with Lemon's story about how he was fired. CNN said that Lemon had the chance to talk to management before making his public comment about being fired. This debate about the specifics of his leaving made Lemon's leaving even more controversial. We go back to 1997 with the Jane Acker case. Alcree was an investigative reporter for WTVT, a Fox News station in Tampa, Florida. She caused a stir when she refused to air a story that had been changed because the Monsanto Corporation wanted her to. The story Acree and her husband, Steve Wilson, were writing was about RBGH, a disputed ingredient that Monsanto makes for milk. During their study, they found that RBGH might be bad for cows and raised questions about how the FDA approved it. They found links between RBGH and human cancer as they dug deeper. They realized that millions of Americans were drinking milk from cows that had been treated without knowing it. Fox got a letter from Monsanto in February 1997, just before the story was supposed to show. They said the report would hurt their business. After that, there was a fight between journalism ethics and pressure from corporations. Acri and Wilson changed the story more than 80 times to make station managers happy while staying true to what they found. They felt like they had to include comments from Monsanto employees that they thought were not truthful. Threats and big cash payments to drop their complaints for months, and refusing to give up their reporting values, Acri and Wilson were fired on December 2, 1997, for not following orders. The story was then given to another writer, who wrote a report that Acri and Wilson said was biased in favor of Monsanto. Acri did something brave in 1998 when he sued Fox as a tipster. She said she was fired because she wouldn't help spread a fake or misleading story, which she thought was against FCC rules. At first, in 2000, a jury gave her $425,000. On review, though, this decision was overturned in 2003. The court said that the FCCC's policy against lying did not count as a law, rule, or regulation under Florida's whistleblower law. What happened after this court case was terrible for Acri and Wilson. Since their case against Fox, neither of them has been able to get full-time work in TV news. Eric Bolling is the next man. Bolling's career took a turn for the worse in September 2017, when it was said that he had sent inappropriate text messages and photos to coworkers without their permission. The claims were first made public by HuffPost. They said Bolling had sent inappropriate messages to at least 3 women at Fox Business and 1 at Fox News. Fox News moved quickly, suspending Bolling until the law firm Paul Weiss can do its own review. During the whole process, Bolling strongly denied doing anything wrong, and his lawyer said that no such unwanted messages had happened. It got so bad that Bolling sued the HuffPost reporter who broke the story for $50 million for libel. The state of this lawsuit is still unknown, though. Even though he complained, the network chose to cut ties with Bolling once the investigation was over. His Fox News show, The Specialists, was canceled, which was the end of his time there. Megyn Kelly is the last person on our list of fallen reporters. That one word can change everything is shown by Megyn Kelly's leaving of NBC. In October 2018, the former Fox News host got into trouble when she supported blackface outfits on her show, Megyn Kelly Today. She said, "That was fine when I was a kid as long as you were dressing up as a character as expected. There was a lot of backlash right away." Coworkers and viewers called her comment out of touch and hurtful. Even though she quickly said she was sorry and acknowledged the racist past of blackface, the damage had already been done. Kelly's time with NBC was over, even though she had a huge $69 million deal with them. They ended her show. As it turns out, making a mistake on live TV can cost a lot, no matter how much money you're making. I learned my lesson. When talking about some things, you should never be careless. NBC dealt the last blow in June 2015. Williams decided not to go back to his dream job as host of NBC Nightly News. A shocking fall from glory for a man who had been in charge of one of the most watched news shows in America for 10 years. Williams later found a new job as a breaking news anchor at MSNBC, but the event ruined his image, which had been very good before. Remember Ed Henry? He seemed to have everything a well-known job at Fox News and a good image as a reporter. Behind the scenes, though, a storm was building that would soon destroy his career. The event was used as material by comedians, including Stewart, who made fun of it at a later comedy show. Later, Sanchez said sorry more than once for his careless and stupid comments, admitting that they were wrong and hurtful. But the damage was already done. His controversial words cost him his job and a bad name in the business. This is the end of the list, though. There have been a lot of big names in broadcast news fall, and Tucker Carlson's story is just one more in a long line of them.